March 27, 1945, 1100 hours, Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Force, Reims, France. General Dwight D. Eisenhower sits alone in his office. The room is quiet in the way only command centers become when bad news arrives. Outside staff officers move through hallways with purpose, carrying reports, updating maps, coordinating the final push into Germany. Inside, Eisenhower stares at a single sheet of paper. The casualty report is typed neatly. Official, clinical, Task Force Baum, 307 men, 53 miles behind enemy lines, status contact lost, estimated casualties 293. His coffee has gone cold. He doesn't notice. The door opens. General Walter Bedell Smith, his chief of staff, enters without knocking. Smith has been with Eisenhower since North Africa. 3 years. 1,000 decisions, 100 crises. But the expression on Smith's face now is different. The color has drained from his features. He holds a manila folder like it might explode. "Sir," Smith says. His voice is tight, controlled. "There's something about Hammelburg you need to know." Eisenhower looks up. He sets down the casualty report carefully, precisely the way a man handles something that might shatter. Smith steps forward. He opens the folder. Inside is a personnel file. Standard issue, name, rank, service record. But one line stands out. Next of kin, emergency contact, Lieutenant Colonel John K. Waters. Captured Tunisia, February 1943. Prisoner of war. Oflag 13B, Hammelburg, Germany. Son-in-law of Lieutenant General George S. Patton, Jr. Eisenhower reads it once, then again. His finger traces the words, son-in-law of George S. Patton. "Jesus Christ," he says quietly. Smith doesn't respond. He doesn't need to. They both understand what this means, what it has always meant, what Patton did. Eisenhower stands. He walks to the window. Outside, the French countryside stretches green and peaceful under March sunlight. Somewhere out there, 53 miles behind German lines, 293 American soldiers are dead or captured or running for their lives. And the man who sent them did it for one person, his family. "Get me everything," Eisenhower says. His voice is flat, empty. "I want to know exactly what happened. Every detail, every decision, every goddamn radio transmission." Smith nods and leaves. The door closes. Eisenhower stands alone, staring at the casualty report, at the number 293, at the terrible arithmetic of command. He knows George Patton, knows his brilliance, knows his recklessness, knows that when Patton believes he's right, nothing stops him. Not orders, not doctrine, not common sense. But this is different. Eisenhower picks up the phone. His hand is steady. His voice, when he speaks, is cold. "Get me 3rd Army, now." The line crackles, connects. A voice answers. "3rd Army General Gay speaking." Hobart Gay, Patton's chief of staff, loyal to the bone. A good officer who has followed Patton from North Africa to Sicily to France to Germany. A man who knows every one of Patton's secrets. "Hap," Eisenhower says. "What the hell is Task Force Baum?" There's a pause. Long. Too long. "Sir," Gay says carefully, "that's a prisoner of war rescue operation. General Patton felt the opportunity was worth the risk." "Worth the risk?" Eisenhower's voice hardens. "You sent 300 men 53 miles through German territory without corps-level support, without consulting 12th Army Group, without informing SHAEF. That's not opportunity, Hap. That's recklessness." "Sir, the general believed the POW camp was lightly guarded. Intelligence suggested." "Intelligence suggested." Eisenhower cuts him off. "We're 1 month from Berlin. Every available unit is committed to the main offensive. I can't spare a division to bail out 300 men if this goes wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying?" "Yes, sir." "Where is George right now?" "Forward command post, sir. Monitoring the situation." Eisenhower's silence stretches across the line. When he speaks again, his voice is deadly quiet. "Tell him to call me the moment he's available. And Hap, if this task force gets wiped out because George wanted headlines, I'm relieving him. Are we clear?" "Yes, sir." The line goes dead. Eisenhower hangs up the receiver. He sits down. He opens the personnel file again. Lieutenant Colonel John K. Waters, age 34, married to Beatrice Patton, daughter of George S. Patton, Jr., captured in Tunisia 2 years ago. 2 years in German hands while his father-in-law commanded armies, liberated cities, became a legend. And now this. Eisenhower closes his eyes. He knows what comes next. The questions, the investigations, the decision he'll have to make. The choice between friendship and duty, between the general he needs and the principle he can't abandon. But that's 48 hours away. Right now, he needs to understand how this happened. How George Patton, the most brilliant battlefield commander in the American Army, sent 307 men to die for one. 2 days earlier, March 25, 1945, 0600 hours, 3rd Army Headquarters, Frankfurt, Germany. General George S. Patton, Jr. stands alone in the operations room. At 60 years old, he looks every inch the warrior. Tall, lean, ivory-handled pistols at his hips, 3 stars gleaming on his shoulders. His face is lined from 3 years of war, but his eyes are sharp, restless, always moving. He stares at a map spread across the table. The front line is marked in red grease pencil. 3rd Army's advance stretches across Germany like a knife thrust into the heart of the Reich. 600 miles in 6 months, 80,000 German soldiers captured, 12 enemy divisions destroyed, the fastest advance of any Allied army in the war. But Patton isn't looking at the front line, he's looking at a small circle marked 53 miles behind it. Hammelburg, Oflag 13B, a prisoner of war camp holding an estimated 1,500 American officers. And one man Patton can't forget. On the corner of the map, half hidden beneath papers, is a photograph, a wedding photo, 1934. A young lieutenant in dress uniform standing next to Patton's daughter, Beatrice, both smiling. Happy, unaware that 10 years later that lieutenant would be rotting in a German prison camp while his father-in-law commanded armies but couldn't bring him home. Lieutenant Colonel John K. Waters. Patton picks up the photograph. His hand doesn't shake, but something in his face changes, softens. For a moment, he's not a general. He's a father-in-law, a man who made a promise 2 years ago and hasn't kept it. The door opens. Major General Hobart Gay enters. Hap Gay is 55, built like a boxer with the weathered face of a man who's spent 3 years in Patton's shadow. He's been Chief of Staff since North Africa. He knows Patton's moods, knows when to speak and when to stay silent. Right now, Patton's silence is dangerous. "Sir," Gay says carefully, "you wanted to see me." Patton doesn't turn around. He's still looking at the photograph. "Hammelburg," Patton says. "What do we know?" Gay steps forward. He's prepared for this. He's been waiting for this conversation for weeks. "Oflag 13B," Gay says. "Prisoner of war camp, G2 estimates 1,500 American officers, mostly captured in Tunisia and Sicily, lightly guarded. The Germans are pulling units east to defend Berlin. Intel suggests maybe 200 guards poorly equipped. Distance from our lines, 53 miles, sir." Patton traces the route with his finger. From the front line at Aschaffenburg northeast, through German territory to Hammelburg, 53 miles through woods and villages and roads, controlled by an enemy that's retreating, but still capable of organized resistance. "We could do it," Patton says quietly. Gay hesitates. He knows what Patton means, knows what he's thinking, and knows it's a terrible idea. "Sir," Gay says carefully, "that's deep penetration. We'd need a full combat command, at least a regiment, air support, artillery, reconnaissance." "No," Patton's voice is firm. "A task force, small, fast, armor and infantry, in and out before the Germans know what hit them." "Sir, the risk is acceptable." Patton turns to face Gay. His eyes are hard. 1,500 American officers, Hap. 2 years in German hands. We're 53 miles away. We have the capability. We have the opportunity. What we don't have is time. The war's almost over. If we don't get them now, the Germans might shoot them all before we arrive. Gay wants to argue, wants to point out the obvious flaws, the lack of intelligence, the distance, the fact that every available unit is committed to the main offensive and pulling resources for a raid. This deep could jeopardize the entire advance. But he doesn't, because he knows why Patton is doing this. He's seen the photograph on Patton's desk, seen the letters from Beatrice Patton's daughter begging for news of her husband, seen Patton alone at night staring at maps, calculating distances, searching for a way. This isn't about 1,500 prisoners. This is about one. "Sir," Gay says quietly, "John Waters is in that camp." Patton's face doesn't change, but something in his eyes flickers, acknowledgement, admission. "That's correct," Patton says. "He's been there since Tunisia, February 1943. 2 years, Hap. My daughter's husband has been a prisoner for 2 years while I've been out here winning battles. You think I don't know that? You think I don't carry that every goddamn day?" Gay doesn't answer. Patton turns back to the map. His voice, when he speaks again, is quieter, almost vulnerable. "I promised her I'd bring him home," Patton says. "When we got the telegram in 43, she was destroyed, and I told her I swore to her that I'd get Johnny back, that I wouldn't leave him there, and now here we are, 53 miles away. One task force, 36 hours. I can keep that promise, Hap. I can bring him home." Gay is silent for a long moment. Then he says what he knows he has to say. "Sir, if you do this, if you send a task force that deep without proper support and it goes wrong, Eisenhower will relieve you. I know. The press will crucify you. I know. History won't forgive it." Patton looks at Gay, really looks at him, and in that moment Gay sees something he's rarely seen in 3 years of war. Doubt, fear, not of the Germans, not of death, but of making the wrong choice, of choosing between being a general and being a father. "If I don't try," Patton says quietly, "I won't forgive myself." And that's the end of the argument. Gay nods. He pulls out a notebook. "Who do you want to command it?" he asks. Patton doesn't hesitate. "Captain Baum, 4th Armored. Best tank officer we have. Tough, smart, fearless. If anyone can pull this off, it's Abe Baum." March 25th, 1945. 1400 hours. 4th Armored Division Headquarters 35 miles southwest of Frankfurt. Captain Abraham Baum sits at a field desk in a tent that smells like diesel and canvas and sweat. At 24 years old, he looks older, the kind of aging that comes from 300 days of combat, from seeing friends die, from making decisions no 24-year-old should have to make. He's writing a letter home to his mother in the Bronx, the same letter he's written 100 times. "Dear Mum, I'm fine, don't worry, the war's almost over, I'll be home soon. Love, Abe." It's a lie. But it's the lie soldiers tell, the lie that lets mothers sleep at night. A shadow falls across the desk. Baum looks up. Major Alexander Stiller stands in the tent entrance. Stiller is 45, built like a career soldier with the kind of face that doesn't smile easily. He's Patton's personal aide. Everyone in 3rd Army knows Stiller, knows that when he shows up it means Patton wants something. "Captain Baum," Stiller says, "the general wants to see you." Baum stands. He folds the letter and tucks it in his pocket. He follows Stiller outside where a jeep is waiting. They drive in silence through the division area, past rows of Sherman tanks being serviced, past infantry companies cleaning weapons, past field kitchens where men line up for hot coffee and whatever passes for breakfast. The war is winding down. Everyone can feel it. The Germans are collapsing. Berlin is 6 weeks away, maybe less. The end is so close, soldiers can taste it, which makes what's about to happen even worse. They arrive at a command tent marked with 3rd Army insignia. Stiller leads Baum inside. The tent is empty except for a map table and 2 officers, Major Stiller and Colonel somebody Baum doesn't recognize, no Patton. "Captain," Stiller says, "we have a mission, classified, volunteer only, high risk." Baum has heard this before. Every mission is high risk. Every mission is volunteer only, except it's not really volunteer when a major personally asks you. "What's the target?" Baum asks. Stiller unfolds a map, points to a location 53 miles behind the front line. "Hammelburg, Oflag 13B, prisoner of war camp. Estimated 1,500 American officers. Intel says it's lightly guarded. We want to go in fast, liberate the camp, and get them out." Baum stares at the map. 53 miles, through German-held territory, with no idea what's between here and there. "Sir," Baum says carefully, "that's deep penetration, way behind enemy lines. We'd need a full combat command for something like that. Air support, artillery, reconnaissance." "You'll have a task force," Stiller says. 307 men, 16 Sherman tanks, 27 half-tracks, 3 assault guns, fast, mobile, hit them before they know you're coming. Baum does the math in his head. 307 men, 53 miles, against an unknown enemy force, with no support, no backup, no extraction plan if things go sideways. It's suicide. "Sir," Baum says, "with all respect, 307 men isn't enough. We don't have intelligence on German strength in that sector. We don't know what's between us and Hammelburg. If we run into organized resistance—" "You won't," Stiller interrupts. "The Germans are retreating, disorganized, demoralized. You'll be in and out before they can respond." Baum looks at the map again. Something doesn't add up. This isn't how 3rd Army operates. Patton is aggressive, yes, audacious, but he's not reckless. He doesn't send task forces 53 miles behind enemy lines without proper support, unless there's something Stiller isn't saying. What's really at Hammelburg? Baum asks. Still his face doesn't change, but his eyes narrow slightly. 1,500 American prisoners, he says. Men who've been in German hands for 2 years. We're 53 miles away. We have the capability. Are you going to tell me we should leave them there? It's a trap, a rhetorical trap. Say no, you're abandoning American soldiers. Say yes, you're accepting a mission that might get 307 men killed. Baum is 24 years old. He's a captain. He's been in combat for 300 days. He's lost count of how many men he's seen die. And he knows deep in his gut that this mission is wrong. But he also knows he's going to say yes, because that's what soldiers do. I'll need to pick my own men, Baum says. Stiller nods. You have 24 hours, he says. Wheels up at 1800 tomorrow. Mission duration 36 hours maximum, in and out. Questions. Baum has 100 questions, but he knows he won't get answers to any of them. No, sir, he says. Good. Dismissed. Baum salutes and leaves. Outside, the March afternoon is bright and cold. Men are working on tanks, cleaning weapons, writing letters home. Normal. Routine. Unaware that 307 of them are about to be chosen for a mission that will end most of their lives. Baum walks back to his tent. He pulls out the letter he was writing to his mother, reads it again. Dear Mum, I'm fine, don't worry, the war's almost over. I'll be home soon. He tears it up. Then he starts making a list of names. March 26th, 1945, 1700 hours. Assembly area 10 miles from the front line. The task force is ready. 307 men, 16 Sherman tanks, 27 half-tracks, 3 assault guns. Enough ammunition for 36 hours of combat. Enough fuel to go 100 miles if they're lucky. The men don't know where they're going. They know it's classified. They know it's dangerous. They know Captain Baum is leading it, which means it's probably crazy. But they're here. Lieutenant William Nutto checks his gear for the 3rd time. He's 22 years old, fresh-faced, 3 months in combat. He has a photograph in his pocket of a girl back in Ohio. Sarah. They're engaged, planning to get married when he gets home. 6 weeks, maybe 8. And this war is over. He just has to survive 6 more weeks. Sergeant Charles Graham sits on the back of a half-track smoking a cigarette. He's 35, old for an enlisted man. He has 3 kids back in Pennsylvania. He worked in a coal mine before the war. Joined up in 42 because the mine closed and the army paid better. He's been with 4th Armoured since Normandy. Seen a lot of men die. Buried a lot of friends. He knows what this is. This is the kind of mission where most of them don't come back. Corporal William Elliott is 19. He lied about his age to enlist, wanted to see action before the war ended, wanted to be part of something bigger than himself. Now he's here, sitting in a half-track, wondering if he's going to die 53 miles behind enemy lines, for reasons nobody will explain. Captain Baum walks through the formation. He looks at each man, makes eye contact, nods. These are his soldiers. He chose most of them personally. Good men, experienced, tough, but not enough. Never enough for what they're about to do. Major Stiller appears. He's coming with them, Patton's personal representative, which confirms Baum's suspicion that this mission is about something more than 1,500 prisoners. Captain, Stiller says. Final briefing. They gather around a map spread on the hood of a jeep. Stiller traces the route with his finger. You'll cross the front line here at Aschaffenburg, head northeast through Schweinheim and Lohr. Final objective Hammelburg, 53 miles. Intel says German presence is minimal. Scattered units, low morale, poor equipment. You should encounter light resistance. Should. The most dangerous word in the military. Rules of engagement, Baum asks. Total operational security. Radio silence except for emergencies. No contact with division headquarters unless absolutely necessary. You're on your own from the moment you cross the line until you return. Baum nods. He's been on his own before. What about extraction? If we liberate 1,500 prisoners, we can't fit them all in the vehicles. Stiller's face doesn't change. Bring out as many as you can. Prioritize the wounded and senior officers. The rest will have to wait for the main advance, which means leave them behind. Which means this whole mission is pointless unless they can somehow evacuate 1,500 men with 40 vehicles. Which means there's something Stiller still isn't saying, but there's no time for more questions. The sun is setting. If they're going to cross enemy lines under cover of darkness, they need to move now. Mount up, Baum orders. The men climb into their vehicles. Engines roar to life. The smell of diesel fills the air. Somewhere in the distance, artillery rumbles. The front line is close. On the other side of that line is enemy territory. 53 miles of unknown danger, and at the end of it, if they're lucky, a prison camp with 1,500 Americans who've been waiting 2 years for rescue. Baum climbs into the lead Sherman. He puts on his helmet, checks his pistol. The gunner next to him, a kid from Detroit named Richards, grins nervously. "Captain," Richards says, "we're really doing this going 53 miles behind German lines." "Yeah," Baum says, we're really doing this." "You think we'll make it back?" Baum looks at him. Richards is 20 years old, probably won't see 21, but Baum doesn't say that. "We'll make it." Baum lies. The column begins to move. 16 Shermans, 27 half-tracks, 3 assault guns, 307 men rolling toward the front line in the gathering darkness. At 3rd Army headquarters, George Patton stands at the window of his office. He watches the sun set. Somewhere out there, Task Force Baum is crossing into enemy territory. 307 men on a mission that might save his son-in-law or might kill everyone involved. Patton picks up the photograph from his desk. John Waters in his wedding uniform smiling next to Beatrice. "Forgive me, George," Patton whispers to himself. Then he turns away from the window. There's nothing to do now but wait and pray. March 26, 1945, 1800 hours, the front line. Task Force Baum crosses into German-held territory as darkness falls. The column moves slowly, carefully, headlights off, engines, quiet as possible. The first few miles are empty. Abandoned. The Germans have pulled back, leaving nothing but empty villages and dark forests. But 50 miles ahead, the German 7th Army is regrouping, pulling units together, preparing defensive positions. They don't know about Task Force Baum yet, but they will in 12 hours. The first ambush will come in 24 hours. German tanks will find them in 36 hours. The trap will close, and 293 men will pay the price for one father's desperate gamble. But right now, in this moment, they're just soldiers, moving through the darkness, following orders, trusting their captain, believing they'll make it home, believing the lie that all soldiers tell themselves. The night swallows them whole. And behind them, 40 miles away, Dwight Eisenhower sits in his office at SHAEF headquarters. He doesn't know about Task Force Baum yet, doesn't know that George Patton has just sent 307 men on a mission that will haunt both of them for the rest of their lives. But in 12 hours, he'll know. And then the real crisis will begin. The question isn't whether Task Force Baum will succeed. The question is what Eisenhower will do when it fails, when he learns that his best friend, his most brilliant general, sent 307 men to die for one person. For family, that answer is still 48 hours away. But it's coming, and it will define everything. March 27th, 1945, 0030 hours, 15 miles behind German lines. Darkness wraps around Task Force Baum like a shroud. No moon, no stars, just the mechanical growl of engines and the metallic clink of treads on frozen ground. They've been in enemy territory for 6 hours. 6 hours of empty roads and abandoned villages and silence so complete it feels like a trap. Captain Abraham Baum rides in the lead, Sherman eyes burning from lack of sleep, scanning darkness that refuses to reveal its secrets. The periscope shows him nothing. Trees, shadows, the road stretching into blackness. Intelligence said the Germans were disorganized, retreating, demoralized. Intelligence Baum is learning lies. Behind him, 16 tanks and 27 half-tracks follow in column formation. Inside those vehicles, 307 men who trust him, who believe this mission makes sense, who think their captain knows what he's doing. He wishes he still believed it. The radio crackles. Lieutenant Nutto's voice cuts through static. "Lead, this is 3. I've got movement. Right side, 200 yards. Baum's fist goes up. The column halts. Engines idle to a low rumble. Every man grips his weapon tighter. The night holds its breath. Then hell opens. Muzzle flashes erupt from the tree line like demonic fireflies. Machine gun tracers arc across the road in lazy, lethal curves. The lead half-track shudders under the impact. Steam hisses from ruptured coolant lines. Men bail out, scrambling for ditches, for cover, for anything solid between them and the incoming fire. "Contact right, all units. Suppress and advance." The Shermans wake up angry. 75mm main guns roar. High explosive shells tear into the woods, transforming trees into splinters and fire. The .50 caliber machine guns open up, sending streams of tracers into German positions that vanish and reappear like ghosts. Infantry dismounts, moves forward in practiced squad rushes. Fire, move, cover. The choreography of men who've done this too many times to count. 7 minutes of violence. When it ends, the tree line burns. The Germans are gone dead or fled into darkness. What they leave behind is worse than their bodies. Proof. Proof that the enemy knows Task Force Baum is here. Sergeant Charles Graham approaches Baum's tank. His face is painted with dirt and cordite residue. His breathing comes hard and fast, the aftermath of adrenaline burning through veins. "Captain," Graham says, "we took 2 prisoners, Germans from 7th Army. They say their unit was posted here specifically to watch for American armor moving northeast." Baum climbs down from the Sherman. His boots hit frozen ground with a crunch that sounds too loud in the post-battle silence. "They were expecting us." "Not us, specifically, but someone. They've been running patrols through this whole sector for the past 2 days, looking for raids on prison camps." The words settle in Baum's gut like stones. The Germans weren't surprised. They were prepared. He walks to where the prisoners sit, 2 kids who look barely 18, hands clasped behind their heads, guarded by soldiers who look just as young. One of them is crying silently, shoulders shaking. Baum's German is rudimentary, clumsy, but functional enough. "How many patrols?" he asks. The crying one answers between hitching breaths. "Many. The whole area. Officers told us Americans might try something. Told us to watch roads, report any movement." "What else did they tell you?" "Panzers." The word comes out like a confession. "North of here, maybe 10 kilometers. Kampfgruppe from 7th Army. Regrouping. They're preparing to counterattack your advance." 10 kilometers, 6 miles between Task Force Baum and their objective. "How many Panzers?" A shrug. "I don't know. 20, 30 Panthers and Mark IVs. Some assault guns. They're good tanks, good crews. 30 German tanks. Against Baum's 16 Shermans. And that's just one unit. One piece of a puzzle that's looking more like a death trap with every passing mile. Lieutenant Nutto appears at Baum's elbow. The young officer's face is tight with worry that he's trying hard to conceal. "Sir," Nutto says quietly, "maybe we should abort. Radio division. Tell them it's too hot." The thought has crossed Baum's mind approximately 700 times since they crossed the front line. Turn around. Fight their way back. Take their losses, 12 dead already, and live to fight another day. But Major Stiller is there, standing 10 feet away. Watching, always watching. Patton's man, Patton's eyes, and Baum knows what Stiller will say. If he suggests aborting, the mission is critical. 1,500 prisoners. Can't turn back now, except some voice in the back of Baum's mind whispers that this isn't about 1,500 prisoners at all. This is about something else, something no one will tell him. "No," Baum says. "We keep going, but we go fast. No more stops unless we're forced. We reach Hammelburg before every German unit in the sector knows exactly where we are." Nutto nods. He doesn't look convinced. But he's a good soldier. He'll follow orders until the orders kill him. They mount up, leave the German prisoners bound at the roadside, leave the 12 American dead where they fell. No time for burial details, no time for anything except forward momentum into an increasingly obvious trap. The column rolls northeast, faster now, engines screaming, all pretense of stealth abandoned. Every German within 20 miles can hear them coming, but speed is all they have left. Behind them, 12 bodies cool under stars that finally emerge from clouds. The first installment on a debt that will cost 293 lives before the sun sets on tomorrow. March 27th, 1945. 0700 hours. Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Force, Reims, France. General Dwight D. Eisenhower arrives at his office carrying the weight of 1,000 decisions and a night of insufficient sleep. Dreams about the bulge, about Market Garden, about all the calculations that saved divisions but killed battalions. His aide, Lieutenant Harrison, waits outside with the morning intelligence summary. The young man's face tells Eisenhower everything he needs to know before a single word is spoken. "Sir," Harrison says, "overnight G2 report. There's something you need to see immediately." Eisenhower takes the folder, flips through routine updates, German withdrawals toward Berlin, Soviet advances from the east, the machinery of war grinding toward its inevitable conclusion. Then page 7 stops him cold. Third Army Operational Report, March 26, 1945. Task Force Baum, 307 personnel, 16 medium tanks, 27 half-tracks, 3 assault guns, departed 1800 hours. Objective Ovlag 13B Hammelburg, deep penetration raid, prisoner rescue operation. Eisenhower reads it twice, then a third time, hoping the words will rearrange themselves into something that makes sense. They don't. "Get me General Smith," he says. His voice is calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that precedes Category 5 hurricanes. But L. Smith arrives in 4 minutes. He's already read the report, already knows what's coming. "Walk me through this," Eisenhower says. Smith doesn't sit, just stands at attention and delivers the briefing like a man reporting casualties. "Sir, Third Army launched a deep penetration raid last night. Target is Offlag 13B, a prisoner of war camp at Hammelburg. Distance from our front line 53 miles. Force committed 307 men under Captain Abraham Baum, 4th Armored Division. Intelligence estimates 1,500 American prisoners at the camp." 53 miles. Eisenhower's voice is flat, emotionless. "George sent 300 men 53 miles behind German lines to rescue prisoners." "Yes, sir?" "Without course-level support, without air cover, without an extraction plan for 1,500 men, even if they succeed." "Yes, sir." "And when did Third Army inform Schaeff about this operation?" Smith's jaw tightens. "They didn't, sir. We discovered it through routine intelligence reporting this morning." Eisenhower stands, walks to the wall map, studies the red line marking the front, studies the small circle 53 miles behind that line, studies the impossible distance that 307 men are trying to cross. "Casualty estimates, Maine. G2 is working on it now, sir. Preliminary assessment suggests Task Force Baum is facing 10-to-1 odds. German 7th Army has units regrouping in that sector. If they concentrate their forces..." 10-to-1, Eisenhower's voice could cut steel. 300 men against 3,000 Germans with no support. What the hell was George thinking? The question hangs in the air. Both men know it's rhetorical. Both men know there's only one answer that makes sense. Patton wasn't thinking, or he was thinking about something other than sound military strategy. "Get me Bradley," Eisenhower says, "and I want everything we have on Hammelburg, prisoner lists, guard strength, German units in the area. I want to know why George thought 1,500 prisoners were worth 300 lives. Smith nods and leaves. Eisenhower stands alone, staring at that circle on the map, at the thin red line representing 307 men driving deeper into enemy territory with every passing minute. He thinks about George Patton, his friend, his most brilliant, most infuriating, most necessary general. The man who saved the Bulge when everyone else was ready to retreat, who raced across France faster than anyone thought possible, who won battles that should have been lost, but also the man who slapped soldiers in Sicily, who ignored orders when they didn't suit his vision, who believed, truly believed, that audacity could overcome any obstacle. This time Eisenhower thinks audacity isn't going to be enough. This time George has finally gone too far. March 27th, 1945, 8:30 hours. Approaching Schweinheim, 30 miles behind German lines. The village appears around a bend in the road like a vision from a nightmare. Schweinheim. Population maybe 300 in peacetime. Now it's a German defensive position and Task Force Baum is driving straight into it at 30 miles per hour. The lead Sherman never sees the Panther that kills it. The German tank sits hull down behind rubble, perfectly positioned, its long 75mm gun already tracking the American column. The first shot punches through the Sherman's front glacis plate like it's made of aluminum foil. The tank brews up, ammunition cooking off in a fireball that turns night into day. Men scream, try to bail out through hatches that have become chimneys for an inferno. 2 make it, 3 don't. Baum's radio explodes with voices. Contact front Panthers, multiple vehicles. Flank left, get around them. We're taking fire from buildings, infantry in the town. Chaos, pure chaos. The Shermans peel off the road trying to flank the German position. But the Panthers are good experienced crews who traverse their turrets with smooth precision and fire with disciplined accuracy. Another Sherman dies, then another, fireballs lighting up the dawn. The half-tracks reverse, pulling back disgorging infantry who scatter into buildings and return fire with everything they have. Bazookas, rifle grenades, desperation. Lieutenant Nutto leads his platoon around the right flank, moving through backyards and gardens, using buildings for cover. His hands shake every time he has to pause, every time he thinks about Sarah back in Ohio and the wedding they're planning and the life that's becoming more hypothetical with each passing second. Bazooka teams, get those tanks. Two men rush forward, kneel behind a stone wall, aim at the nearest panther. Fire! The rocket streaks across 50 yards of open ground, hits the panther's side armor, explodes in a shower of sparks. The panther keeps moving, keeps firing. German armor is too good. American bazookas are too weak. German infantry pours out of buildings, machine guns, grenades. The Americans are caught in a crossfire with no good options except through. Sergeant Graham's half-track takes a burst that kills the driver instantly. Graham grabs the wheel with one hand while firing his rifle with the other. Crashes through a fence, rams directly into a German machine gun nest. Men tumble out fighting hand-to-hand with bayonets and rifle butts and the brutal close-quarters savagery that no training can fully prepare you for. 20 minutes of hell. When it's over, Schweinheim is burning, 4 Shermans destroyed, 3 half-tracks wrecked, 18 men dead, 23 wounded. The Panthers have withdrawn either out of ammunition or repositioning for the next ambush. Baum climbs down from his tank. His ears ring. His hands won't stop shaking. 300 days of combat, and he's never felt this sense of being ground down, mile by mile, toward inevitable destruction. Major Stiller approaches. Untouched. He hasn't fired a single shot. He's an observer. Patton's representative, not a combatant. "Captain," Stiller says, "we need to maintain momentum." Baum looks at him, really looks at him. This man who arrived from 3rd Army headquarters with orders from Patton himself. This man who won't explain the real objective. "Why?" Baum asks. The question comes out harder than he intended. "What's at Hammelburg that's worth this 1,500 American prisoners of war?" "That's what you keep saying. But we don't send 300 men 53 miles without support for prisoners, not without backup, not without a real extraction plan. So tell me the truth. What's really there?" Stiller's expression doesn't change. "That information is classified." "Men are dying for your classified information. I think I've earned the right to know." For just a moment, Stiller almost breaks, almost tells him about Lieutenant Colonel Waters, about Patton's son-in-law, about the real reason for this mission. But then he remembers his orders, remembers that if Baum knew this was about one man, he might refuse to continue. 1,500 prisoners, Stiller repeats. "That's all you need to know, Captain." Baum stares at him, knows he's being lied to, knows there's more. But what can he do? Turn around? Abandon the mission, face a court-martial for disobeying orders. How far to Hammelburg? 23 miles. If we move now, we can make it before dark. If we move now, if we don't hit more ambushes, if the Germans don't converge with every available unit, if we're lucky. Baum thinks ran out about 20 miles ago. He looks at what remains of his task force. 12 Shermans, 24 half-tracks, maybe 250 men, still combat effective. They've lost 20% of their strength in 14 hours, and they're barely halfway there. "Mount up, bar," he orders, because that's all he can do. Keep moving, keep fighting, keep hoping that when they reach Hammelburg, it will somehow justify the 30 men already dead. The column rolls out of Schweinheim, leaves the burning vehicles, leaves the bodies. And behind them, German radio men send reports to 7th Army headquarters. American armored column, moving northeast, company strength, heading toward Hammelburg. The trap is closing. March 27th, 1945. 1100 hours, SHAEF headquarters. Bedell Smith enters Eisenhower's office carrying a manila folder like it contains a live grenade. Eisenhower looks up from intelligence reports he's been reading, reports about Task Force Baum making contact with German forces, about casualties mounting, about a mission spiraling toward disaster. "Sir," Smith says quietly, "there's something about Hammelburg you need to know." He opens the folder, slides a single personnel file across the desk. Eisenhower reads it. Lieutenant Colonel John K. Waters, captured Tunisia, February 1943. Current location, Offlag, 13B, Hammelburg, Germany. Next of kin, Beatrice Patton Waters. Father-in-law, Lieutenant General George S. Patton, Jr. Eisenhower, reads it again, then sets it down with the careful precision of a man handling something that might detonate. "George's son-in-law?" "Yes, sir. George sent 307 men 53 miles behind enemy lines to rescue his son-in-law." "Well, that appears to be the case, sir." Eisenhower stands, walks to the window, stares at French countryside, stretching peaceful and green under March sunshine. Somewhere out there, 53 miles behind German lines, nearly 300 American soldiers are dying for one man's family. "Get me Bradley," he says. His voice is quiet, the kind of quiet that precedes explosions. "Now." 5 minutes later, General Omar Bradley is on the secure line from 12th Army Group headquarters. Brad, Eisenhower says, I need you to sit down for this. That bad? George's son-in-law is at Hammelburg. Silence. Long, terrible silence. Then Bradley's voice hard as granite. That son of a bitch sent them for his family. 307 men, 53 miles, for one person. Ike, this isn't reckless. This is criminal. You have to relieve him. Today, right now, no delay. Eisenhower closes his eyes. Bradley is right. By every standard of military justice, Patton should be relieved immediately, court-martialed, dishonorably discharged. But there's always a but. We're 6 weeks from Berlin, Eisenhower says quietly. Maybe less. Third Army is our spearhead. George has liberated 600 towns, captured 80,000 Germans, destroyed 12 enemy divisions. If I relieve him now, our advance slows, maybe stalls. More men die in the long run. More men are dying right now because of his decision. Bradley's voice cracks like a whip. 293 estimated casualties, Ike. 293 Americans who are going to die or get captured because George couldn't accept that his family isn't more important than military necessity. I know. Then relieve him and replace him with who else can drive Third Army. Like George does, who else has his instinct for finding weakness and exploiting it before the enemy recovers? Bradley is silent, because he knows the answer. Nobody. George S. Patton is irreplaceable. Brilliant and reckless and impossible and absolutely necessary. This is wrong, Bradley says finally. You know it's wrong. I know. But you're going to let him get away with it. I'm going to wait until this mission resolves. Then I'm going to have a conversation with George that he'll never forget. And if he ever does anything like this again, I'll relieve him instantly. That's not justice for the men dying right now. No, Eisenhower admits, it's not. But it might save 10,000 men over the next 6 weeks. And that's the calculation I have to make. The line goes dead. Bradley is hung up, disgusted, angry. Knowing Eisenhower is choosing pragmatism over righteousness, Eisenhower sets down the phone, sits heavily in his chair, stares at the personnel file. Lieutenant Colonel John K. Waters, son-in-law of George S. Patton. Patton. One man, 307 soldiers sent to rescue him. 293 expected casualties. The terrible arithmetic of command reduces everything to numbers. And sometimes the numbers don't add up to anything resembling justice. March 27th, 1945, 1400 hours. Third Army Headquarters, Frankfurt. George S. Patton hasn't slept in 40 hours. He stands in the operations room staring at the map, chain-smoking cigarettes that he barely tastes. His staff maintains careful distance. They recognize the signs. Know when their general wants company and when he wants space. Right now, he wants to be alone with his guilt. The last radio contact with Task Force Baum was 4 hours ago. Brief, static-filled, something about heavy contact with German armor, casualties mounting, then silence. Hap Gay enters, carries a radio intercept. His expression tells Patton everything before he speaks a word. Sir, Gay says, we've intercepted German 7th Army communications. They know about Task Force Baum. They're moving units to intercept, converging on Hammelburg. Patton takes the message, reads it. His hand remains steady, but something dies in his eyes. How many casualties has Baum taken? Latest estimate from our last contact, 30 dead, 40 wounded. They've lost 4 tanks, multiple half-tracks. Sir, they're still 20 miles from the objective. 20 miles, through territory now fully alerted, with German units actively hunting them. Can he make it? Patton asks. Gay hesitates. He's a loyal officer. Followed Patton from North Africa through Sicily, through France, through Germany. But he's also honest. Sir, even if he reaches Hammelburg, extraction will be nearly impossible. The Germans are concentrating forces. Task Force Baum will be surrounded. They'll have to fight their way back through territory on full alert. Can he make it? Patton asks again. Harder. Demanding an answer that Gay can't give. I don't know, sir. Patton turns back to the map. His finger traces the route from Aschaffenburg, through Schweinheim, through Lohr to Hammelburg. 53 miles that looked so achievable on paper. So reasonable with speed and surprise. But speed is gone. Surprise is gone. Men are dying mile by mile for a decision Patton made alone in this room 2 days ago. If this fails, Patton says quietly, Eisenhower will relieve me? Yes, sir. Probably. The press will crucify me. Yes, sir. History will remember this as my greatest mistake. Gay doesn't respond. Because it's true. If Task Force Baum fails, when it fails, Patton's entire legacy will be overshadowed. All the victories, all the brilliance, all the impossible battles won will become footnotes to this one catastrophic error in judgment. To save one man, his son-in-law. I should have sent a full division, Patton says. Should have committed proper forces. Should have done this right instead of trying to keep it quiet. Sir, even a division might not have been enough. 53 miles is too far. Too much territory to secure and hold. Patton knows this. Has known it from the beginning. But knowing and admitting are different things. One is intellectual. The other requires breaking something inside yourself. I promised Beatrice, Patton says, his voice barely audible. 2 years ago, when we got the telegram about Johnny, I promised my daughter I'd bring her husband home, and now 30 men are dead because I couldn't break that promise. Gay wants to offer comfort, wants to say something about duty and honor and impossible choices, but there's nothing comforting about this, nothing honorable about sending 307 men to save one. The radio crackles. A voice breaks through static and distance. Sunray, this is Task Force Baum Actual. Heavy contact. Enemy armor. Multiple vehicles lost. Continuing to objective. Out. Baum's voice, strained, exhausted, but still fighting, still moving forward because that's what he was ordered to do. Patton grabs the microphone, wants to call Baum back, wants to order him to abort, to turn around before it's too late. But it's already too late. The trap has closed, and 307 men are inside it. Patton's hand hovers over the transmit button. Then slowly, he sets the microphone down without speaking. Get me every available unit, Patton says. His voice sounds hollow. Every tank, every infantry company, I want them ready to move toward Hammelburg. If Baum gets into trouble, I want to be able to send help. Sir, we're fully committed to the main offensive. We can't pull units without authorization from... I don't care. The words crack like artillery. I sent those men. I'm not abandoning them. Get me the units. Now. Gay nods and leaves. Patton stands alone, stares at the map, at the small circle marked Hammelburg, at the route Task Force Baum is following into disaster. He thinks about Beatrice, about the promise he made, about the letter she sent 2 weeks ago. Daddy Johnny's been gone 2 years. Every day is agony. Please bring him home. About the price 293 men are going to pay for that promise. Outside, the March afternoon is bright and cold. Victory is 6 weeks away. The end is so close soldiers can taste it. But for Task Force Baum, the end is coming much sooner. And when it comes, it will be brutal. March 27th, 1945. 1600 hours. 10 miles from Hammelburg. Task Force Baum is a shadow of itself. 3 more ambushes. 5 more Shermans destroyed, 8 more half-tracks wrecked, 35 more dead, 40 wounded and riding in vehicles that have no medical supplies beyond bandages and morphine. Of the 307 who started this mission, maybe 200 remain combat effective, and Hammelburg is still 10 miles away. Captain Baum sits in his command tank. His face is grey with exhaustion. His left arm is bandaged where shrapnel caught him. His uniform is soaked with sweat and blood and diesel fuel. But he's still moving forward. Still leading, because that's what captains do until there's nothing left to lead. Sir, Lieutenant Nutto says over the radio, his voice is tight. We can't sustain this. We need reinforcements, artillery support. Something. There is no support, Baum says. We're 50 miles behind enemy lines. We're alone. Then we should turn back, extract, while we still have enough force to fight our way out. Baum wants to. God, he wants to. Every instinct screams that this mission is suicide, that they should abort. Save who they can, live to fight another day. But Major Stiller is still there, in the tank behind him, watching, waiting. And Baum knows that if he turns back, Stiller will report it directly to Patton, disobeying orders, abandoning the mission, court-martial, disgrace. We keep going, Baum says. The column moves forward, slower now, cautious, every man expecting the next burst of fire, the next shell, the next explosion that ends everything. At 16:45, they capture 2 German stragglers. Baum interrogates them himself. His German is rough but functional enough for this. How many prisoners at Hammelburg? He asks the older one. A reservist, maybe 50, pressed into service because Germany has run out of young men to throw into the fire. I don't know exactly, the German says. Maybe 500, 600. Americans? The German shrugs. Some, maybe 200, maybe 300. Most are Russian, Serbian, French. The words hit Baum like a physical blow. Not 1,500 Americans. 1,500, the German laughs bitterly, but no, maybe 300 Americans total. The rest are other nationalities. Baum turns to Stiller. His voice is flat, dead. 300 Americans, not 1,500. Stiller's expression doesn't change. The mission parameters remain unchanged, Captain. We've lost nearly 60 men to rescue 300 prisoners when we only have room in our vehicles for 200 anyway. And you're telling me the mission parameters remain unchanged? General Patton's orders were clear. And in that moment, Baum understands completely. This was never about 1,500 prisoners. This was never about sound military strategy or opportunity or any of the justification Stiller has been feeding him. This is about one man, one specific prisoner. And they're all going to die for whoever that is. Who is it? Baum asks quietly. Who's at Hammelburg that's worth this? That's classified. 30 men are dead. Classified doesn't mean shit to the dead. Stiller steps closer, lowers his voice so only Baum can hear. You have your orders, Captain. Follow them or face the consequences. Those are your options. Baum stares at him, understands the threat, understands that he's trapped between obeying suicidal orders or destroying his career. Some choice. Mount up. Baum orders his men. Because there's no real choice at all. The column moves forward toward Hammelburg, toward whatever secret is worth 293 American lives. Corporal William Elliott, 19 years old, sits in the back of a half-track. He's not joking anymore, not smiling. He's seen too many friends die in the past 24 hours. Seen too much blood. He wishes he'd never lied about his age, wishes he'd stayed home, wishes he was anywhere but here, but wishes don't stop bullets. Sergeant Graham, 35, 3 kids in Pennsylvania, drives his half-track with mechanical precision. He doesn't think about his family, can't afford to. If he thinks about them, he'll break. So he focuses on the road, on the next mile, on surviving 60 more seconds. That's all any of them can do now. Survive 60 more seconds, then another 60, then another. At 17:30 hours, Task Force Baum crests the final ridge before Hammelburg. Below them in a valley sits Offlag, 13B barbed wire, guard towers, wooden barracks, and somewhere inside prisoners who've been waiting years for rescue. Baum raises his binoculars, studies the camp. It looks lightly defended. Maybe 100 guards, no visible armor, no heavy weapons. Maybe he thinks just maybe this will actually work. Maybe they can liberate the camp, load as many prisoners as vehicles can carry, fight back to American lines. Maybe 60 men won't have died for nothing. All units, Baum says into the radio, prepare to assault. We're going in. The Shermans move forward, engines roaring. The half-tracks follow close behind. Infantry ready. This is it. The moment they've been bleeding toward for 30 hours. The moment that will determine if 60 men died for something or for nothing. The moment that will reveal what's really at Hammelburg. And why George Patton was willing to sacrifice everything to get there. The sun is setting behind them as Task Force Baum rolls down the ridge toward Offlag 13B into the final trap. Into the end. March 27th, 1945, 1800 hours, Offlag, 13AB, Hammelburg. The Shermans smash through the front gate like it's made of paper. Wood splinters, wire snaps, the guard towers empty as German soldiers scatter running for their lives or throwing down their weapons in surrender. Task Force Baum pours into the camp. For 6 glorious minutes it works. The plan actually works. German guards flee. The few who resist are cut down quickly, efficiently. The Shermans position around the perimeter. Infantry fans out securing buildings, rounding up prisoners. It's textbook, perfect execution. And then the prisoners start emerging from the barracks. Not hundreds, thousands. They pour out like a flood. Skeletal men in ragged uniforms, faces hollow with hunger, eyes wide with disbelief. Americans, British, French, Russians, Serbs. Over 1,200 men who've been waiting months or years for this moment. For liberation. Captain Baum stands on his Sherman watching them come. His heart sinks, because he's doing the math. 1,200 prisoners, 12 functioning Shermans, maybe 20 half-tracks. 20 operational vehicles total. He can evacuate maybe 200 men, maybe. A gaunt officer approaches. His uniform hangs on him like a scarecrow's clothes. Lieutenant Colonel's eagles on his collar. He walks with difficulty, leaning on a makeshift cane. I'm Lieutenant Colonel John Waters, the man says. His voice is rough, unused to speaking. Who sent you? Baum stares at him. Waters. That name. He's heard it somewhere, can't remember where. Third Armies, sir, Baum says. Captain Abraham Baum, 4th Armored Division. We're here to get you out. Waters looks around the camp, at the Sherman tanks, at the handful of half-tracks, at the 1,200 prisoners now gathering in the compound, hoping, praying, believing they're going home. How many vehicles do you have, Captain? Waters asks. 20 that are still running, sir. And you plan to evacuate 1,200 men with 20 vehicles? Baum doesn't answer, because there is no answer, because this whole operation was insane from the start, and now it's revealing itself in all its impossible stupidity. Major Stiller appears. Waters sees him. Recognition flashes across his face. Then understanding. Then something that looks like horror. Alex, Waters says quietly. George sent you. Stiller doesn't deny it. Waters turns to look at Baum. Captain, do you know who I am? Lieutenant Colonel Waters, sir, that's all I'm General Patton's son-in-law, Waters says. The words hit Baum like a punch to the gut. Patton's son-in-law, this whole mission, 53 miles, 76 men already dead, all of it for one person. Oh my God, Baum says quietly. Waters sees it in his face. The realization, the betrayal, the understanding that 307 men were sent into hell not for 1,500 prisoners, but for one man's family. I didn't ask for this, Waters says. His voice cracks. I never wanted this. If I'd known George was planning something like this, I would have... He doesn't finish. Because it doesn't matter what he would have done. It's too late. Task Force Baum is here, surrounded by 1,200 prisoners who think they're being rescued, surrounded by German territory that's now fully alerted. Sir, Sergeant Graham runs up. We've got movement in the hills. Looks like German armor, multiple vehicles. They're surrounding the camp. Baum climbs back onto his Sherman, raises his binoculars, scans the ridgeline. His blood turns to ice. Tanks, dozens of them, Panthers and Mark IVs emerging from the tree line like steel predators, infantry following, trucks, artillery, an entire Kampfgruppe from German 7th Army converging on Hammelburg from 3 directions. The trap has sprung. All units, defensive positions, Baum shouts. Get those Shermans, hull down, infantry, prepare fighting positions. We're about to get hit hard. The prisoners sense it. The change in atmosphere, the urgency, the fear in the American soldiers' faces. They've been imprisoned long enough to recognize danger when they see it. Captain Waters says, "You need to leave, now. Take whoever you can fit in the vehicles and get out before they seal the exits." "I can't leave 1,200 men here, sir." "You can't save 1,200 men either. Your vehicles can carry maybe 200. Save who you can. The wounded, the sick, the senior officers. Leave the rest of us. We'll surrender to the Germans again. We've done it before." Baum looks at him. This man who's spent 2 years as a prisoner, who could be going home, who's telling Baum to leave him behind. "Sir, you're the reason we're here." "Then the mission is a failure," Waters says quietly, "because I'm not leaving while 1,000 men have to stay. Either we all go, or none of us go." Before Baum can respond, a shot cracks across the valley. Waters spins, falls, blood blooms across his hip. He goes down hard, a German guard, hiding in one of the towers, one last act of defiance, one bullet that changes everything. "Medic!" Baum shouts. Men rush to Waters, press bandages to the wound. He's conscious, in pain, but alive, and now he definitely can't be moved. The German tanks open fire. March 27th, 1945, 18:30 hours, the battle for Hammelburg. Hell comes to Oflag, 13B, in the form of high explosive shells. The German Kampfgruppe doesn't wait, doesn't demand surrender, just opens fire from the ridgeline with everything they have. Tank guns, artillery, mortars, a hurricane of steel and fire that rips through the prison camp like the wrath of God. Barracks explode, fences disintegrate, the guard towers that prisoners feared for years are blown to splinters in seconds, and in the middle of it Task Force Baum fights back. The Shermans return fire, 12 American tanks against 40 German panzers. Impossible odds. But they fight anyway, because that's what soldiers do. They fight until there's nothing left to fight with. Lieutenant Nutto commands his platoon of infantry from a shell crater. He's 22 years old, engaged to a girl named Sarah back in Ohio. He was supposed to go home in 6 weeks. Get married. Start a life. A Panther round lands 10 feet from his position. The explosion lifts him off the ground, throws him 15 feet. He lands on his back. Can't hear, can't see, just ringing, just smoke. Hands grab him, pull him to cover. Sergeant Graham, the older man, the coal miner from Pennsylvania with 3 kids. "Stay down, Lieutenant!" Graham shouts. His voice sounds like it's coming from underwater. Nuto tries to stand. His legs won't work. He looks down. Blood. So much blood. "Medic!" Graham screams. But there are no medics left. They're all dead or treating 100 other casualties. The wounded are everywhere. American soldiers, German guards, prisoners caught in the crossfire. The compound is a slaughterhouse. A Sherman brews up, ammunition cooking off in a fireball. The crew tries to bail out. 1 makes it, 2 don't. Corporal Elliott watches them burn. The 19-year-old who lied about his age, who wanted to be part of something bigger than himself. He's vomiting, can't stop, can't look away from the burning men. "Elliott," his squad leader shouts, "get on that .30 caliber return fire." Elliott stumbles to the machine gun, grabs the handles, starts firing, not aiming, just firing, spraying bullets at the ridgeline where German infantry are advancing, watching tracers arc into the darkness, not thinking, can't think, just shoot and survive and shoot and survive, and a Panzerfaust rocket streaks across the compound, hits the half-track next to him, the vehicle explodes, bodies fly, Elliott is thrown backward, his ears are bleeding, his hands are burned, but he's alive. Captain Baum runs from position to position, trying to coordinate, trying to maintain some kind of defense, but it's chaos, pure chaos. His radio is dead, half his officers are casualties. The Shermans are dying one by one. He finds Major Stiller, crouched behind a wall. "We have to surrender," Baum shouts over the din. "We can't win this." "No surrender," Stiller shouts back. "General Patton's orders, fight to the last man." Baum grabs Stiller by the collar, pulls him close. "Look around, we are the last men, 200 of us left. We're surrounded by an entire German division. This is over." The general said, "The general isn't here." Baum's voice cracks. "The general sent us to die for his son-in-law, and now we're dying. I'm not sacrificing what's left of this task force for pride." He releases Stiller, runs to the nearest Sherman. The tank is still firing, still fighting, but it's the only one left. "Cease fire," Baum orders. "White flag. We surrender." The gunner looks at him. Young kid, maybe 20. "Sir, we can still—" "That's an order. Cease fire." The Sherman falls silent. Around the compound, the shooting slows, stops. American soldiers throw down their weapons, raise their hands. Some are crying, some are praying, some are just standing there numb, unable to process what just happened. The Germans advance, cautious at first, then bolder. Infantry with rifles, officers with pistols. They round up the survivors, separate the wounded from the able, line them up against walls. Baum stands with his men, hands behind his head, blood running down his face from a shrapnel wound. He's been hit 3 times in the last 30 minutes. Left arm, right leg, scalp. But he's alive. A German officer approaches, speaks English with a Berlin accent. "I am Major Höppner, 7th Army. You are prisoners of war. Who commands here?" "I do," Baum says. "Captain Abraham Baum, 4th Armored Division." "You are very far from your lines, Captain." "Yes." This was foolish. Brave, perhaps, but foolish. Baum doesn't respond. What can he say? It was foolish. It was suicide. It was a mission doomed from the start. "How many men did you lose?" Höppner asks. Baum looks around the compound, counts bodies, counts burning vehicles, does the terrible math. 32 dead, he says quietly. Maybe more, 261 captured, including me. 32 dead, out of 307. Not as bad as he feared, but bad enough, and for what Höppner nods, almost sympathetically. "You will be treated according to Geneva Convention," he says. "The wounded will receive medical care. You will be transferred to a prisoner camp. The war is almost over. A few more weeks. You will survive." He walks away, leaves Baum standing there with his men, with the survivors, with the remnants of Task Force Baum. Sergeant Graham sits on the ground. He's been shot in the chest. Medics are working on him. He's going to live, going to see his 3 kids again, but not for 6 weeks, not until the war ends and the camps are liberated. Corporal Elliott is unconscious, concussion from the explosion. He's 19 years old, and he's going to spend the rest of the war as a prisoner. Lieutenant Nuto is being carried on a stretcher. The shrapnel took his left leg below the knee. He'll never walk normally again, never dance at his wedding to Sarah, never run with his kids. But he's alive. They're all alive. 293 men went into Hammelburg. 261 came out as prisoners. 32 didn't come out at all. And in a corner of the compound, under a makeshift shelter, Lieutenant Colonel John Waters lies on a cot. The bullet in his hip missed the artery by inches. He'll survive. He'll be liberated in 9 days when the 14th Armored Division rolls through. He'll go home to his wife Beatrice. He'll never speak publicly about this mission, never criticize his father-in-law, never reveal what he knows, that 307 men were sent to save him, that 32 died, that 261 spent the final weeks of the war as prisoners. All for him. That guilt will follow him for the rest of his life. But tonight, as German soldiers secure the compound and count prisoners and catalogue the American dead, John Waters just lies there in the darkness and weeps. March 30th, 1945. 0900 hours. Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force Reims. General Dwight Eisenhower reads the final casualty report. Task Force Baum. 307 personnel. 32 killed in action. 261 captured. 14 escaped and currently making their way back to American lines through enemy territory. 0 prisoners of war successfully rescued. Total vehicles lost: 16 Sherman tanks, 27 half-tracks, 3 assault guns, 100%. Mission result: complete failure. He sets down the report, picks up the phone. His hand is steady. His voice when he speaks is ice cold. "Get me General Patton. Tell him I want to see him in person. Tomorrow. 12th Army Group Headquarters. No excuses." He hangs up. Biddell Smith enters quietly. "Sir," Smith says, "the press is starting to ask questions. They know something happened at Hammelburg. They're connecting the dots: Patton's son-in-law, the timing, the casualties." "Let them ask," Eisenhower says. We'll bury it until after the war. By then, with Germany defeated, there won't be appetite for scandal." "And Patton?" Eisenhower is silent for a long moment. "I need him for Czechoslovakia," he says finally. "The final push. He's still the best we have. But after this, I'm going to have a conversation with George that he'll remember for the rest of his life." "He should be relieved, sir. Court-martialed." "I know." Eisenhower's voice is tired. So tired. "But I can't afford to lose him. Not now, not this close to the end. So I'll do what I have to do. I'll keep him in command, and I'll live with that decision, just like George will have to live with his." Smith nods and leaves. Eisenhower sits alone. He thinks about the 32 men who died, the 261 who are prisoners, the 14 who are somewhere behind enemy lines walking through the night, trying to get home. He thinks about the impossible choices of command, about choosing between justice and necessity, about the calculations that keep generals awake at night. 32 dead, for one man. Was it worth it? History will have to decide. April 2nd, 1945. 1400 hours, 12th Army Group Headquarters, Wiesbaden, Germany. General George S. Patton walks into the conference room. He's in full uniform, 3 stars gleaming, ivory pistols at his hips, boots polished to a mirror shine, but his face is drawn, haggard. He hasn't slept properly in a week. Eisenhower and Bradley are waiting. They sit behind a desk. Official, formal. This is not a meeting between friends. This is a reckoning. George Eisenhower says, "Sit down." Patton sits. His back is straight. His hands are folded. He doesn't make excuses, doesn't try to deflect. "Sir," he says quietly, "but I take full responsibility for Hammelburg." "Your son-in-law was in that camp," Eisenhower says. "It's not a question." "Yes, sir." Bradley leans forward. His voice is hard, angry. "Did that influence your decision to launch this raid?" Patton could lie, could say it was about the 1,500 prisoners, about opportunity, about audacity. But he doesn't. "Yes," he says quietly. "Johnny Waters has been a prisoner for 2 years. My daughter has been grieving for 2 years. I thought I could bring him home." "You lost 32 men," Eisenhower says. His voice is flat, empty. "For one person?" "Yes, sir." "You sent 307 men 53 miles behind enemy lines, without proper support, without authorization, without telling anyone the real objective, and now 293 of them are casualties." "Yes, sir." The room is silent. Outside, spring sunshine streams through windows. The war is winding down. Berlin is 4 weeks away. Victory is inevitable. But in this room there is no victory, only failure and guilt and consequences. "Are you relieving me, sir?" Patton asks. Eisenhower stands. He walks around the desk, looks down at Patton, his friend, his most brilliant general, the man who saved the Bulge, who raced across France, who won impossible battles, The man who just gambled 307 lives on family. No, Eisenhower says. Bradley's head snaps up. Ike! Eisenhower raises his hand. Bradley falls silent. You're too valuable, George, Eisenhower says. We need you for the drive into Czechoslovakia, for the final push. You're the best battlefield commander I have. He leans forward, places his hands flat on the desk. His voice drops, goes quiet. Dangerous. But you can't do this. You can't gamble 300 lives on a personal mission, no matter how much you love your family. Do you understand me? Yes, sir, Patton whispers. If you ever... Eisenhower's voice is like steel. And I mean ever pull something like this again without authorization, I will relieve you on the spot. I will end your career. I will make sure you never command troops again. Are we clear? Yes, sir. Eisenhower straightens, steps back. You've saved this war a dozen times. You've won battles no one else could win. You're brilliant. You're audacious. You're exactly what this army needs. But George, he pauses, you can't put family above mission. Not when lives are at stake. Not ever. Patton's voice is barely audible. I understand, sir. Those 32 men who died, those 261 who were prisoners, they trusted you, they followed your orders, they believed the mission made sense, and you betrayed that trust for one man. I know. Can you live with that? Patton looks up, meets Eisenhower's eyes. I'll have to, he says quietly. The meeting is over. Patton stands, salutes, turns to leave. At the door, he pauses. Ike, he says. I'm sorry. Eisenhower doesn't respond, just watches as Patton walks out. Watches as his friend, his general, his brilliant, reckless, impossible commander leaves the room carrying guilt that will follow him to his grave. The door closes. Bradley turns to Eisenhower. That's it, that's all he gets, a lecture. No, Eisenhower says quietly. He gets to live with what he did. He gets to know that 32 men died because he chose family over duty. He gets to carry that for the rest of his life. Trust me, Brad, that's worse than any court-martial. Epilogue. April 5th, 1945. Hammelburg. The 14th Armored Division liberates Oflag 13B. They find 1,200 prisoners, including Lieutenant Colonel John Waters, recovering from his gunshot wound. Waters is evacuated to a field hospital, then to England, then home to the United States, to his wife, Beatrice Patton Waters. He never speaks publicly about Task Force Baum, never criticizes his father-in-law, never reveals what he knows, but he writes one letter, private, to Captain Abraham Baum, who is still a prisoner in a German camp waiting for liberation. The letter says, I didn't ask for this. I never wanted this. Please forgive me. Baum never responds. April 19th, 1945. Germany. Captain Abraham Baum is liberated by advancing American forces. He's lost 40 pounds. He has frostbite, infections, nightmares. He's awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for his actions at Hammelburg. He refuses to attend the ceremony. He refuses every letter from Patton, every attempted communication, every apology. Years later, a historian asks him why. Baum's answer is simple. He sent us on a mission he knew couldn't succeed. 32 men died. 261 were captured. For one person. I can't forgive that. He lives until 2005, 60 years after Hammelburg, and he never, not once, speaks to George Patton again. December 21st, 1945. Heidelberg, Germany. General George S. Patton is critically injured in a car accident. He dies 12 days later, 8 months after Hammelburg. In his personal effects, they find a diary. One entry about the mission. 4 words, Hammelburg, my biggest mistake, and a letter, unsent, to his wife, Beatrice. I thought I could bring Johnny home. I was wrong. I'll carry that with me forever. He never mailed it, never apologized publicly, never admitted that 307 men were sent for one. But he knew, and it killed him long before the car accident. 1948, Eisenhower's memoir. In the appendix buried where most readers won't find it, Eisenhower writes one paragraph about Hammelburg. The operation was not militarily sound. It was executed without proper planning or support. I understood why George did it, but understanding doesn't make the decision correct. Leadership sometimes requires choosing between what we want and what is right. George chose what he wanted. 32 men paid the price for that choice. The final count: Task Force Baum, 307 men, 32 killed in action, 261 captured, liberated 3 to 6 weeks later, 14 escaped, walked through enemy territory, returned to American lines. 0 prisoners of war successfully rescued, 1 father-in-law who couldn't let go, 1 general who chose family over duty, 1 impossible mission that never should have happened, and 1 lesson that echoes through history. Command means making choices no one should have to make. Patton chose wrong. Eisenhower chose pragmatically. Waters chose guilt. Baum chose never to forgive. And 32 men never got to choose at all. March 27th, 2025, 80 years later. There's a memorial at Hammelburg, small, modest, a plaque listing the 32 names, the men who died for one person. Families still visit, descendants of the dead, of the survivors, of the men who walked 80 miles through enemy territory to get home. They come to remember, to understand, to ask the question that has no answer. Was it worth it? Patton thought it was, had to think it was, otherwise the guilt would have destroyed him. Eisenhower thought it wasn't, but kept Patton anyway, because winning the war mattered more than punishing one mistake. Waters thought it wasn't, spent 40 years carrying guilt for men who died trying to save him. Baum knew it wasn't, refused to forgive, refused to forget. And the 32 dead, they never got to think anything. They just died for one man, for family, for a promise that should never have been made. That's the story of Task Force Baum, not a story of heroes and villains, but a story of impossible choices made by flawed men in impossible circumstances. A story about the price of command, the weight of family, and the terrible arithmetic that says sometimes one life is worth 300, and sometimes it isn't. History doesn't give us answers, it just gives us the question, and leaves us to decide.